Welcome in, dear friends. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope that you guys are doing well and hope you had a happy NFL Week 17 weekend. So, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. The NFL regular season is almost over, so the playoff picture is almost formed. So, we got a lot of good games to talk about, a lot of good players that stood out this week. And I'm just going to give my overall take from week 17 action. So, some particular games that we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about Drake May and the New England Patriots getting 5 touchdowns over the New York Jets and blowing them out. We're going to talk about the horrible game by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they couldn't even get a win over the Cleveland Browns in a game that would have clinched the AFC North division and got them into the playoffs. So that was very painful to watch. And we're going to talk about the big Sunday night football game between Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears versus Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. So, a lot of good stuff to talk about. Before we jump into all of that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So, if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into NFL Week 17. All right, guys, the first game we're going to talk about is from Saturday. It was a good quarterback matchup. We had the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud go against the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert. So, two very exciting quarterbacks going head to head. Two very good teams who are going to be in the playoffs going head to head. So, this was an important game for both teams just to officially clinch a playoff spot and try to get as a high of a seed as possible. So in this one, CJ Stroud and the Texans pull out the win 20-16. The Texans improve to 11-5, and the Chargers fall to 11-5. So let's go ahead and check out the game leaders in this one. So for the Texans, CJ Stroud, he went 16 for 28, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. So some good and bad in this one from CJ Stroud, but he's definitely had a better second half of the season than the first half. And the Texans as a whole have been a lot better in the second half of the season. So let's go ahead and check out numbers for Justin Herbert. So he went 21 for 32, 236 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So just kind of a solid game by Herbert in this one. Nothing too bad, but nothing too good either. He did have 37 yards rushing as well. So the two quarterbacks just kind of had solid games, but CJ Stroud gets the win in this one. So again, this was a good quarterback matchup. Two of the more exciting quarterbacks. And both of these quarterbacks like to throw down the field and they also use their legs. So they're definitely exciting to watch. They're not, boring quarterbacks where they just sit in the pocket and that's it. So I was definitely interested in this game. I didn't really care who won in this one, but with the Texans, the first half of the season, it was not looking good for them. It wasn't looking like they were going to make the playoffs. Um, CJ Stroud was playing pretty bad, but I don't know what happened. But in the second half of the season, they got their stuff together. Um, CJ Stroud played a lot better, and now they find themselves heading to the playoffs. So good job by the Texans, and we'll see if they do some damage in the playoffs. Even though the Chargers lost this one, they're going to be in the playoffs. Justin Herbert is going to be very dangerous. He lost some major offensive tackles during the season, um, but nonetheless, he got his team into the playoffs, and we'll see if Justin Herbert will do some damage in the playoffs as well. All right. So the second game on our plate that we're going to discuss is the big matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and Green Bay Packers. And this was also a game from Saturday. So this was a matchup between two backup quarterbacks, um, Tyler Huntley of the Ravens versus Malik Willis of the Packers. So both Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love were injured and did not play in this game. So even though they were out, this was a big game for both teams. More so the Ravens, just because if they had lost this game, they would have been out of the playoff contention. But as we can see, they got a big win, 41-24. They improved to 8-8 on the season. The Packers fall to 9-6-1. So huge win by the Ravens, and they're still alive. Let's check out the game leaders in this one. For the Ravens, Tyler Huntley, 16 for 20, 107 yards, one touchdown. So just a quiet game there by him, barely over 100 yards passing, but he got the win. That's all that matters. So the big story in this game was Derrick Henry, 36 carries, 216 yards rushing, four touchdowns. One of the best performances by a running back this season for sure. So when the Ravens needed Derrick Henry to step up, he definitely stepped up and delivered a huge game in this one. So let's check out the Packers. Malik Willis, he went 18 for 21, 288 yards, one touchdown. So that's a pretty good game by a backup quarterback. I think the Packers were happy with his performance. He also had 60 yards rushing with two rushing touchdowns. So a very nice game by Malik Willis, but they did not get the win. And Christian Watson, 113 yards receiving with one touchdown. All right. So again, this was a big game for both teams. For the Baltimore Ravens, they have to win out the rest of the regular season to make the playoffs. So if they had lost this game, they would have been out of playoff contention. So they win this game, they're 8-8. On the other hand, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who they are battling with to win the division, they lost their game versus the Browns. So it all comes down to week 18, Baltimore Ravens versus Pittsburgh Steelers. Whoever wins that game wins the AFC North division and makes the playoffs. So that's going to be an awesome game next week. For the Packers, they made the playoffs, but just this was an important game for them, just for positioning, to try to get as high of a seat as possible. But not the worst loss for the Packers. They're going to be in the playoffs. Jordan Love is coming back. So just a bump in the road for the Packers. And we'll see if the Packers do some damage in the playoffs. And we'll see if the Ravens make the playoffs. And just again, in this game, Derrick Henry was huge. Lamar Jackson out. They needed Derrick Henry to step up and get a big win for the team. Um, over 200 yards. He was just unstoppable in this one. He was the old Derrick Henry. So, very, very impressive game by him. And again, we'll see next week if Lamar Jackson plays. Um, Derrick Henry, if the Ravens win, they're in the playoffs. So, the Ravens could have a very, very significant change where it looked like they were going to have a horrible season and not even make the playoffs to potentially making some serious noise in the playoffs if they make it and making a run towards the Super Bowl with the Chiefs out. So 1 week can change everything in the NFL. So we'll see what happens. Exciting and cool games from this weekend was definitely the matchup between the New England Patriots and the New York Jets. So this was a matchup between Drake May having an MVP type of season versus the rookie quarterback Brady Cook for the New York Jets. So in this one, the Patriots blow out the Jets 42-10. They improve to 13-3, and the Jets fall to 3-13. So let's take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. So for the Patriots, Drake May, amazing game, 19 for 21, which is 90% completion, 256 yards passing, 5 touchdowns. So I think what it said on there that he's the first player in the NFL to have 90% plus completion percentage, 250 yards plus passing, and 5 touchdowns plus passing. So very, very impressive game by him. And this one, uh, Henderson had 82 yards rushing, and Stephon Diggs had a good game with 6 receptions, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. All right, let's check out the Jets. So Brady Cook, he went 19 for 33, 152 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. So not a good game by him in this one. Brees Hall, 111 yards rushing with 1 touchdown. So, not the most exciting game or most competitive game, but it was still definitely fun to watch Drake May throw 5 touchdowns and set some NFL records. If it wasn't for Matthew Stafford having an awesome season um, and being the MVP frontrunner, I definitely think Drake May would have won the MVP this season. So he should be in second place. And then Josh Allen um, in third, in my opinion. But nonetheless, New England Patriots are back. They're back to the good old days. Drake May and the head coach, Mike Vrabel, they are the new Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, from what I can tell. They're going to be good for the next 10 years. Drake May is just getting started. So, very, very impressive performance in this game by Drake May. And just an overall amazing season by the Patriots. They have, if not the best, one of the best records in the NFL for sure, along with the Denver Broncos. So just great job by Drake May and the Patriots. And we'll see how far the Patriots go in the playoffs. For the Jets, they're going in a different direction, 3-13. There's some talk that their head coach, who just got the job, Aaron Glenn, might be fired. Um, so we'll see what happens there. But the Jets are the same old Jets. So another game that I was definitely interested in checking out was the matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Indianapolis Colts. So we had a pretty cool quarterback matchup in this one. Trevor Lawrence of the Jags, who's having a really good season, and he went up against Philip Rivers of the Colts, who's 44 years old and trying to help the Colts make the playoffs, coming back from retirement. But unfortunately, he's not going to get in the playoffs. The Jags win this one 23-17. They improved to 12-4, and the Colts dropped to 8-8, and the Colts are officially out of the playoffs. So I'm a Jaguars fan and I like Trevor Lawrence, but it would have been nice to see Philip Rivers get the Colts into the playoffs, but they're just not good enough at this point with all their injuries. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the game leaders in this one. For the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence, 23 for 37, 263 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. So not a very good game by Trevor Lawrence in this one. ETN had 76 yards rushing. Parker Washington, 115 yards receiving. Let's check out the Colts. Philip Rivers, 17 for 30, 147 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So a solid game by Philip Rivers in this one, considering his situation, 44 years old, hasn't played football in 4 or 5 years, coming out of retirement. So I think he did pretty well. And Jonathan Taylor, 70 yards rushing with 1 touchdown. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about these two teams. So Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the best records in the NFL. They still have a chance to be the top seed in the AFC, be the number one overall seed, which would get them a first week bye in the playoffs and home games throughout the playoffs. So it's kind of hard to imagine that the Jags are in such a good situation that they are relative to like previous seasons that they've had and their struggles. So the fact that they're potentially the number one seed is just a little crazy and very, very surprising for sure. And for the Colts, I mentioned Philip Rivers has already played a couple of games for the Colts. He was kind of their Hail Mary option to try to get them in the playoffs. But both of the games that he's played in, the teams have lost, and the Colts are officially out of the playoffs. So they had a really good start to the regular season with Daniel Jones, but things just kind of fell apart in the second half of the season with the Daniel Jones injury and the team just not playing as well. So unfortunately, the Colts will be out of the playoff picture, and we'll see how far the Jags go. All right, guys. So the game that I was most excited about watching and I was definitely looking forward to was the matchup between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. So this was Aaron Rodgers of the Steelers versus Shador Sanders of the Browns. A lot of intrigue in this game. I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. As a result, I'm a Steelers fan this season. If the Steelers win, they are in the playoffs. They win the AFC North Division. They can rest their players next week, and they would have a home game in the playoffs once the playoffs start. But it ended up being a very painful game to watch. Um, the Steelers score only 6 points. Shador Sanders and the Browns scored 13 points. And I was also interested in watching this game, just wanted to see how Shador Sanders would perform. So both of the quarterbacks had pretty bad games in this one. And just as a Steelers fan, as an Aaron Rodgers fan, very disappointed with this game and this result. It was painful to watch. Um, the Steelers lose 6-13. They dropped to 9-7 on the season, and the Browns improved to 4-12. So let's take a look at the game leaders in this one. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers, 21 for 39, 168 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So just a very mediocre game in this one. I think with the stakes that were on the line, it was definitely a disappointing performance by Rodgers. Jalen Warren, 64 yards rushing. Pat Freiermuth, 63 yards receiving. On the Browns side, Shador Sanders, 17 for 23, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So he didn't have a very good game either. All right, I definitely want to talk a lot more about this game and these teams, particularly the Steelers. All right, so again, I mentioned a lot of this, but going into this weekend, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I was definitely excited. Um, if the Baltimore Ravens lose this weekend, which was versus they were playing against the Packers, that would have meant the Steelers win the division and make the playoffs. So that didn't happen. The Ravens won that one, which is fine. But then in this game, I was definitely hopeful. I was like, if the Steelers beat the Browns, which they definitely should, um, the Steelers again win the AFC North Division. They're in the playoffs. They control their own destiny in this game. I know DK Metcalf is out this game and next game, but they still have pretty solid other wide receivers and weapons. And I just thought that they could get it done, um, with playoff berth on the line. But it was just a horrible game to watch, honestly. The defense played well. I mean, the Browns only scored 13 points. Shador Sanders had 2 interceptions. But the Steelers' offense, I mean, they had so many chances. And even in the fourth quarter, the Browns gave them so many different chances to get a touchdown. Um, but the Steelers' offense just was not working at all. DK Metcalf, I mentioned, suspended. Um, their big tight end, Darnell Washington, got injured in this game, so he didn't play for most of it, which was a big loss. But with all that said, I still thought they could somehow get a win in this one. But they were just bad offensively. So at the very end of the game, I know they had a big drive down the field, and the Steelers still had a chance to get a touchdown um, with a third down play and a fourth down play. But, I definitely don't blame the officials in this one. I mean, you can't depend on a game with like one play or two plays. Like they had so many chances before those very two last plays to get touchdowns before that. that you can't just put all emphasis on those last two plays of the game. So just a horrible loss, honestly. Like now they have to play a very big game in week 18 versus the Ravens, and whoever wins that game is going to be in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson is probably going to play. Um, DK Metcalf is still going to be suspended. We'll see what happens with Darnell Washington, the tight end. But just honestly, just a painful loss. Very, very disappointing. And if I had to guess, I mean, I'm hoping the Steelers win and get in the playoffs, but my expectation is that the Ravens will win the game and make the playoffs. I think they are a better team, but we shall see what happens in Week 18. A huge matchup: Pittsburgh Steelers versus Baltimore Ravens. All right, so the next game we're going to talk about is between two of the best teams in the NFL. This might be a potential Super Bowl preview. We had the Philadelphia Eagles go up against the Buffalo Bills. It was Jalen Hurts of the Eagles versus Josh Allen of the Bills. Two very good quarterbacks, Super Bowl MVP and a regular season MVP quarterback. So very, very good game to look forward to. It wasn't the most exciting game offensively, but nonetheless, the Eagles pull out the win, 13-12. They improved to 11-5 on the season, and the Bills dropped to 11-5. So let's go ahead and check out the game leaders in this one. Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, 13 for 27, 110 yards, one touchdown, zero interceptions. So just kind of a game management performance by Jalen Hurts in this one. Saquon Barkley, 68 yards rushing. A.J. Brown, 68 yards receiving. On the other side, Josh Allen of the Bills, he went 23 for 35, 262 yards, zero touchdowns, zero interceptions. So not Josh's best performance for sure. James Cook, 74 yards rushing, and Brandon Cooks, 101 yards receiving. So I was definitely watching this game. Love the quarterback matchup in this one. Again, might be a Super Bowl preview for sure. So in this game, the Eagles were winning towards the end of the game. Josh Allen drives the team down the field, and they get the touchdown. So it was decision time for Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Bills. Do you want to just kick a extra point and tie the game, or do you want to go for two and win the game? They decided to go for two. Josh Allen, he scrambled towards his left a little bit. He had a wide receiver wide open in the corner, but Josh just didn't throw a good pass to him. It was incomplete, and that was the game. The Eagles held on to the lead 13-12 and got a win in this one. But just as easily, the Bills could have won this game. So not the worst game by the Bills. Um, Two very good teams. So honestly, if I had to make a prediction, I think this might be my prediction on who's going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I think the Eagles. I know the Rams are really good as well. But definitely the Eagles and Bills Potential Super Bowl preview in this one. A lot of good defense, and we'll see if that comes to fruition. All right, so we had a really good game for Sunday Night Football. Love to watch the Sunday Night Football games. Seems like they're always good. In this one, we had Chicago Bears versus San Francisco 49ers. A pretty interesting quarterback matchup. Caleb Williams of the Bears versus Brock Purdy of the 49ers. So, a lot of offense in this one. We see some big numbers, but in the end, the 49ers get the win 42-38. The 49ers improve to 12-4. Chicago Bears fall to 11-5 in this one. So let's check out the quarterbacks, see how they did in this one. For the Bears, Caleb Williams, 25 for 42, 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Their running back, DeAndre Swift, 54 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns. And their wide receiver, Burden, had a good game with 138 yards receiving with a touchdown. On the other side, Brock Purdy, 24 for 33, 303 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Christian McCaffrey, another awesome game, 23 carries, 140 yards with a touchdown. And wide receiver Ricky Pearsall had 85 yards receiving in this one as well. So if you like offense, this was an awesome game to watch. Two very interesting quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, second season up and coming, having a really impressive year so far. Huge improvement compared to last season and the beginning of this season. Brock Purdy, he's been in the league for several years now. Smaller quarterback, but slings the ball all over the field. So just a very intriguing quarterback matchup in this one. And these two teams are two of the better defenses in the NFL. So the fact that these scores were so high is definitely a bit surprising. But nonetheless, these two teams are two of the better teams in the NFC division. Both are going to be in the playoffs. And you never know, they might meet up again in the playoffs. So, love these two quarterbacks. I would definitely, if I had to choose one of them, I would pick Caleb Williams just because he's more athletic. He's just more exciting to watch as a quarterback. But Brock Purdy gets the job done and gets a big win for his team in this one. All right, guys, we are almost done. The last game we're going to talk about is the Monday Night Football matchup tonight between the Los Angeles Rams and the Atlanta Falcons. So this should be matchup between Matthew Stafford of the Rams and I believe Kirk Cousins of the Falcons. So in this one, the win probability, the Rams are favorite at 74% versus 26% for the Falcons. So I think that is pretty obvious. The Rams are a lot better. I think the Rams still might have a chance to get the best record in the NFC division and be the top seed. So it's still an important game for them. The Falcons are not in playoff contention, so they don't really have anything to fight for in this game. So I definitely like Matthew Stafford and the Rams in this one to get a big win over the Falcons and position themselves to potentially win and have the number one record in the NFC division. So we'll see what happens there. Matthew Stafford, he's got the MVP locked up this season. So he's been very, very impressive. Their offense has been very, very impressive. So we're going to root for the MVP tonight, Matthew Stafford, and the Los Angeles Rams. All right. So before we wrap things up for today, we're going to take a look at the standings and NFL playoff picture. So it's almost formed 100%, but with just a couple games and couple teams to be determined. So let's go ahead and start with the NFC playoff picture. So out of the 7 teams that are making the playoffs, 6 of them have already been determined. So the Seahawks, Bears, Eagles, Rams, 49ers, and Packers, they're all in the playoffs. The 7th team to be determined, it's either going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Carolina Panthers. Those 2 teams face each other in the last week, week 18, next weekend. So whoever wins that game will be the 7th team to make the playoffs, and that will wrap things up officially. So looks like as far as the number 1 seed in the NFC, um, that's still up for grabs. So it's either going to be the Seahawks, they have a 49% chance, or the 49ers, they have a 51% chance. So just some other things still to be determined in week 18, but NFC playoff picture almost fully formed, just to see if it's going to be the Buccaneers or the Panthers. And I'm going to be rooting for my hometown, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield. Let's get that big win and get in the playoffs. All right, jumping over to AFC playoff picture. So very similar situation in this one as well. Out of the 7 teams who are going to be in the playoffs, 6 of them have already been determined. Those 6 are the Broncos, Patriots, Jaguars, Texans, Bills, and Chargers. To be determined is whether the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers or the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson are going to be in the playoffs. Very similar to the NFC side, these 2 teams face each other in week 18. I believe it's in Pittsburgh. So, being an Aaron Rodgers fan and thus a Steelers fan this season, I'm definitely going to be rooting for the Steelers. We just need one more win. We can get it done and get in the playoffs. So, I'm still holding out hope for that. So after that, that'll be the 7th team, and the full picture will be formed on the AFC side. Still a couple of other things to be determined in this one as well. The number 1 seed. Right now, the Broncos have a 56% chance of being the number 1 seed, but the Patriots and Jags still have a chance as well. So there you have it. Basically, playoff picture almost formed. We just need to see if it's going to either be the Bucks or Panthers on the NFC side, and on the AFC side, if it's going to be the Steelers or the Ravens. So let's go Bucks and let's go Steelers, and we will see what happens. All right, guys, that's all I wanted to cover for NFL Week 17. I really hope you guys liked the video and got some value out of the content. If you did, again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the like button, make some comments about NFL Week 17 action, who you like in the playoffs, and anything else you want to comment about. So that's it from me. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time.